My personal opinion is that if Amazon MGM Studios got the rights to this film, it would have been much better. Hey, it's that time of the month. Thank you for joining me for my April wrap up. I'm glad you're here. I watched 15 movies, barely finished a book, but we're gonna talk about the book anyway. But we'll do that last. Since I watched 15 movies, why not just get started on those 15 wonderful movies. Before I get started, why don't you let me know in the comments if you had any favorite movies or books or even shows or episodes that you watched this month. I'd be happy to discuss or take any recommendations that you have. Speaking of shows, I haven't talked about many shows except for Paradise and Stranger Things, but I am in the middle of rewatching Everybody Hates Chris. Currently towards the end of season 2 right now. I do watch Abbott Elementary. I just finished the last season, and I am watching Bob's Burgers. I just started, I guess, the new season last night. So that's what I'm watching. If you want to hear about those shows, you can also let me know in the comments below. For now, let's just go ahead and talk about the movies that I watched, starting with the first in April, and that was on the 4th, and that was People We Meet on Vacation. If you don't know, People We Meet on Vacation is adapted from Emily Henry's novel. It is a romantic comedy, and personally, I think it was just fine. It was okay. I think it was just fine. I think it was okay. My personal opinion is that if Amazon MGM Studios got the rights to this film, it would have been much better. That's my personal opinion. I think Amazon does romance and romantic comedies pretty great, to be honest. And I know a lot of them are like kind of low production, low budget, and even the ones that have a little bit more budget are like meh. But the thing is that there was source material, so they could have made it much better, I think, than Netflix did. Apparently, for the other adaptations of her novels, she's going to be writing some of them, so I heard. So I think they'll be hopefully a little better, even though I did not read People We Meet on Vacation. I just have a feeling that Emily Henry is going to do her work justice. Then I watched on the 6th, The Plastic Detox. I think it was wonderful. I think it was so informative. Even though a lot of that stuff I was pretty familiar with already, I just think it is so awesome for work like that to exist and reach new audiences. Well, let me tell you what it's about if you don't know. Essentially, it's a documentary about how microplastics can affect your fertility, and getting rid of microplastics in your life could essentially bring back your fertility. Microplastics have an immense effect on our health. I think it's so important that I'm not sure how viral it went, but the reason that I heard of it was because somebody watched it and then was getting rid of all of the polyester or plastic clothes in their closet, and I was like, oh wait, this sounds like something right up my alley, and it definitely was. I do recommend watching it if you are unaware of the possible dangers and proven dangers of plastics and microplastics in your life. On the same day, the 6th, I watched Madagascar, also. Madagascar, yes, from 2005. It was wonderful. It was so fun to watch. A comedy, because I feel like they don't really make comedies anymore. Yeah, I think it's true. They don't make like just straight up comedies. I think they make movies with comedic elements and comedic scenes, but they don't make movies like where the whole point is just to have fun and to laugh. Especially for families, I think a lot is just revolving around just drama and focusing on like heavy topics or serious subplots. You can't just watch anything just like silly and like strictly just, you know, for the fun of it. No big moral of the story, no heavy drama, just pure laughs and fun. I don't think those exist too much anymore. And if they do, they're kind of just not the same. So yeah, Madagascar, that was really, really fun to watch. Then the next day, Madagascar, Escape to Africa, followed it up. And then on the 8th, The 100-Foot Journey. If you do not know, The 100-Foot Journey is sort of like a cooking movie, and it's with a touch of romance. It's about this family from India who moved to France after stuff happened at home to where they kind of needed to leave the country or wanted to leave the country and kind of start fresh. First they tried England. That didn't work for them, and it had to do with sort of like the food and the freshness of the food as well. And so they moved to France. Eventually they broke down in a small town. Fate would have it that in this small town there's a space for a restaurant that they can buy. They buy it, and the neighboring restaurant, you can imagine, they're not happy because it's a Michelin star restaurant and they don't want any competition or just any sort of disturbance to their peace. It sort of starts a kind of culture war, and in the end, though, everything works out, and I think it's a pretty good movie. I think it's a movie about also like the son in the Indian family. He is like the really good chef, and eventually the French see his potential, and he ends up, you know, getting a Michelin star for the French restaurant, and that opens up an array of opportunities for him. And then you can see him eventually kind of going away from his culture and the tastes of home, and then eventually he is reminded of that in a really beautiful scene. It's just, yeah, it's sort of about what immigrants have to go through when leaving, you know, their homelands, and what like food, how important food is for the soul and memories and all of that. So The 100-Foot Journey, do recommend if you've never watched it before. And then on the 10th, Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted. So yes, I watched the whole trilogy. I know. The first Madagascar, definitely my favorite out of all three. Let me know if you have a different opinion and why. On the 13th of April, we watched Burnt. We ended up sort of going on this little like cooking kind of spree. So Burnt, I mean, same thing, sort of, different tone to The 100-Foot Journey, but it's just about a chef and Michelin stars are involved, and it's a sort of a story of redemption and also a little bit of an underdog story as well. I really enjoy it. I think it's a good movie. On that same day, we watched The Menu. I thought this movie was pretty good. It was my first time watching this movie. It is about, well, okay. Essentially, it's a satire, sort of on the commentary of the kind of elite class and their ridiculousness. And with The Menu, it's the ridiculousness with food. Because if you've ever been to a Michelin star restaurant or a really fancy restaurant where they serve you a portion size, the size of your palm or less, and it's deconstructed food, it's basically that, and it's really a wild ride. Personally, I thought the beginning was a little rough. I thought it was like a little rough start, but you know, 15-30 minutes in, you get warmed up, and then you're kind of you're there. So The Menu is really good. Out of The Menu, Burnt, and The 100-Foot Journey, The Menu is definitely the most interesting. I think The 100-Foot Journey is definitely the most emotional, and then Burnt, I guess, I don't know, maybe a little bit in between. And then on the 15th, halfway through the month, we watched After. This was a rewatch for me. I was sharing it with my boyfriend because I thought it would be funny to kind of have him watch the series. Yes, you heard that right. We have watched the entire series except for the last one, which is happening today. Yeah, After. If you don't know, After is sort of a toxic relationship story for new adults. The main characters are in college, and essentially you have this star student, kind of nerd female character who ends up with the moody, broody, cool guy, bad guy, male character. The reason that they end up together is not what you think it is. And then eventually our main character, Tessa, she finds that out, and yeah, that's sort of when the relationship kind of goes downhill, and it kind of keeps going downhill and back and forth throughout the entire series. After we collided, after we fell, after ever happy, and then after everything, the final chapter. So yeah. On the 19th, we watched Cocaine Bear, which I've seen this movie many times. I love it, honestly, so much. I think Cocaine Bear is pretty funny. Like, it's, though, just sort of like, kind of, I notice this in comedy sometimes, or at least like comedy dramas, like the first half is like really funny, and then the second half, like that's where the drama like sets in. But yeah, Cocaine Bear, if you do not know, is a movie about, you guessed it, a bear who ends up doing cocaine. How does this bear end up doing this, you ask? It is because, based off of true events, by the way, some dealer ended up dropping bags into a forest, like from a plane, and then was gonna go back and try to retrieve them. But, okay, this is where the based off of true events, it gets dicey here. I'm not sure if we actually know if a bear actually did it, but essentially then the bear gets it, and then there's a lot of like plots that intertwine, and we get a story that involves a bear chasing people down, killing people, all of the above. It's pretty funny, very gory, so if you're like, if you're not a fan of that, then proceed with caution. I do remember the first time I watched it between my fingers because I was not sure what was gonna happen, but once I knew that I could handle it, I watched it again the very next day, and then I've seen it multiple times since then, and yeah, I think it's pretty funny. I think it's pretty good. And then the final movie, we watched The Devil Wears Prada in preparation for The Devil Wears Prada 2. I had seen this movie before a long time ago, so I didn't really remember much, but it was great. It was funny. If you do not know, The Devil Wears Prada is about a college graduate. I forget what she graduated in. It might have been like journalism or something, but the only real job, like she can't get a job. So she ends up applying for an assistant at like this fashion magazine, Runway or something. She gets hired. It's really tough for her at first, but then it gets easier, but at a cost. You know, at a cost. And if you want to know, you'll just have to watch if you have not watched it before. I think it's pretty funny. Again, sort of like Cocaine Bear, the funniness is like the first kind of 50%, and then the drama sort of sets in. But it's really good. It's really great. And yeah, those are the movies that I watched this month in April. And now for the book that I will be finishing by tomorrow. Today's the 29th. Poverty by America. Essentially, it's a book about how poverty is systemically engineered, and we'll just leave it at that. It's as simple as that. If you want to learn more about that, do pick up the book. And that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. And I will see you in the next one. And then look forward to my May wrap up in about a month. Till then, bye.